Welcome to CBS 42's presentation of Hidden History, celebrating Hispanic heritage. I'm Ariana Garza. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll be sharing with you the impact of Hispanic culture across the U.S. and in the community. From music and food to arts and current and past politics, we'll be sharing with you just a small portion of Hispanic culture.
Hispanic Heritage Month celebrates the culture and contributions of Hispanics to the United States of America.
It has been in place since Lyndon B. Johnson, and it was expanded under President Reagan.
Rafael Medina with the Center for American Progress says Hispanic Heritage Month started as a week-long observance and was expanded to a month-long celebration in the 1980s.
Since then, every president has signed a proclamation beginning in September 15, and it goes until October 15.
But Medina says 2018 has been a difficult year for Hispanics. He points to the White House and President Trump.
I think it's very clear that he's very insensitive and doesn't actually care about the Hispanic community.
Medina says even the annual Hispanic Heritage Month proclamation has been tarnished.
Last year, President Trump signed the proclamation right after he had rescinded the program DACA.
DACA is the program that protects young immigrants who were brought into the United States illegally as children. The program's future is still uncertain, and Hispanics have also felt the effects of the president's zero-tolerance policy.
Thousands of families, hundreds of children remain separated from their parents at the border.
Chris Shimolensky is the deputy director for Numbers USA, an organization that strives to reduce total immigration numbers. He says it's possible to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month and at the same time enforce immigration laws.
While the administration has implemented a zero-tolerance policy along the southern border, it's not targeted at Hispanics. It's anybody who crosses the border illegally is going to be prosecuted.
Shimolensky agrees Hispanics have done much to shape American culture.
There are thousands, millions of Hispanics that have come to this country legally and have contributed over generations and made, again, viable contributions to the United States, and I do think we should celebrate that.
On this, Medina agrees. In fact, he says it's now more important than ever to remember all that Hispanics bring to life in America.
For Hispanic Americans who still believe in the American dream, who still believe in inclusivity, in culture, to not grow apathetic and to register to vote.
He also wants to celebrate all that Hispanics will contribute in the future. In Washington, Alexandra Limon.
Celebrating the Hispanic heritage.
When we think of that, most of us really think more of our indigenous culture. It's like Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead that everybody celebrates, which is really more indigenous than it is Spanish.
A heritage that it's not always understood if growing up in the United States of America.
There are so many Latinos that don't feel pride, and so for us it's important that we celebrate our heritage, that we teach our children pride, that we teach them that brown is beautiful, and that Spanish, is great, that, it's good to speak other languages.
For Camila, acknowledging her roots, she says, has helped her embrace who she really is.
Who I think growing up often felt ashamed of my dark skin, of my black long hair, that, I'm trying to reverse that trend, with my own children, to teach them pride. And I think that we all need to do that and just really celebrate what makes us unique and beautiful of being Latinos and Mexican Americans.
At 88 years old, for Dolores Huerta, there's no stopping as one of the most influential Latinas in the United States. Her voice is louder than ever, but it may not be the only one.
We actually have a way to make our voices heard, and that way is with our vote. And we're going to use our vote in these November elections. Sí se puede.
¿Sí se puede?
Sí se puede.
Norma Gaspar reporting.
When we return, we'll take you to a place where music helps keep the history of the culture alive. Stay with us. Welcome back to CBS 42's presentation of Hidden History, celebrating Hispanic culture. Music is an integral way that knowledge gets passed down over generations. David Romero explains why.
In New Mexico, it's what drives fiestas, good times, bad times, or motivates anyone to work. Spanish music. But what's played on the radio today is a far cry from the early roots of the music that first arrived in New Mexico.
The first songs that came to the Americas were romances. There's also canciones that came.
Simple chord rhythms like that are how many of the early corridos and romances arrived in the state. But once they were established here, well, New Mexico music took on a sound of its own.
When something big happens like the prison riot in Santa Fe, when was that? In 1980, it was so tragic. There were a good 6 or 8 corridos that I know about that were written about that. And probably the best distributed ones were by Al Hurricane.
Esta tragedia pasado en la prisión de Santa Fe.
And artists like Al Hurricane are not only responsible for carrying on the traditions of the old music, but transforming it into a modern-day sound, which is keeping it alive in New Mexico.
The best way to quote-unquote preserve them is just make sure your kids learn enough Spanish to appreciate these traditions and let the kids listen to them.
David Romero reporting.
We all have our favorite foods, but when it comes to Hispanic cuisine, the debate is whether to go red or to go green.
It's a simple question with a passionate answer.
Who, in your opinion, makes the best New Mexican cuisine in Albuquerque?
I'm going with the Church Street Cafe.
Sophia's.
El Bruno's on 4th Street.
Say Church Street. I've got to stop in Marian Tito's.
Fewer topics are as contentious or full of pride. Who makes the best enchilada? Who has the hottest green chili? But what makes New Mexican cuisine New Mexican?
I don't know, it's probably more like a cross between Spanish, Mexican, and Native American foods.
Spice, a lot of heat.
Once you taste it, it's unique to anything in the world.
Following the Spanish tradition of adapting key ingredients with regional flavors, the New Mexican cuisine was born in the fusion of Native American staples with Spanish ingredients brought over in the 16th century.
Before the Spanish, they didn't have like pork, they didn't have beef, they didn't have chicken, they didn't have milk, cream, eggs.
And those ingredients were mixed with the cornerstone of the Native American tradition.
The three sisters, the corn, beans, and squash, they each kind of help each other to grow and prosper. So you'll see things like calabacitas, you'll see like corn husks, for tamales.
There's so much passion for New Mexican cuisine, particularly with the natives that are from New Mexico.
I'm doing a story about New Mexican food. Do you want to answer that on camera?
I'd rather not. But
Rather not?
yeah,
While working on this story, I asked dozens of people from Old Town, Downtown, Northeast Heights about their favorite restaurants. So many people did not want to go on camera to answer this for fear of offending their friends or restaurateurs.
I prefer not to be on camera.
Okay. Our passion for food goes beyond just picking your favorites. It's ingrained in the very fiber of our cultural identity. William Stafford, whose family owns and operates Sadie's Restaurants, says in addition to working with authentic New Mexican ingredients, there are 2 secrets to their spicy success.
Staying consistent with what we've been serving for years and years. Number 2 is the family values that we've put into this. This is a family-owned and operated business for 64 years.
New Mexicans often look at themselves as underdogs, especially in down economic times. But our cuisine, and specifically our chili, is a source of great pride. It doesn't matter if you're a consumer or a chef, like California native David Ruiz.
You do the green and the red chili and the heat and the spice so well, and it's like the one thing besides Breaking Bad that you're kind of like, you're known for it.
So well known for it that it's our state question, red or green, which leads to an even bigger debate or argument.
Chad Brummett reporting.
Those colors may cause a never-ending debate with food, but a very special museum is combining old media and new media to share Hispanic arts culture. In most cultures, art is a way of sharing history and heritage. One unique museum is doing just that in both traditional and non-traditional ways.
I'm hit by the color because I love color. I'm hit with great pride.
From the moment you walk in, every corner of Arte Americas catches your eye. The bright colors, the picturesque walls, striking figures, and all of the rich culture portrayed through the art.
It's the heart and the soul of what arte represents. That is what we wish to share with not just the Latino community, but the entire community of Fresno.
Arte Americas Casa de la Cultura is Central California's largest nonprofit Latino cultural center. It has 5 rotating galleries featuring local and international artists, traveling exhibits, and full-scale installations by local student artists. For over 30 years, this has been a flourishing exhibit for Latino arts.
It's really cool to have a space designated for a specific culture and to be able to kind of time travel and see what that culture was about.
What makes the museum unique is that the facility is also used as a learning destination. All the exhibits and events are culturally educational.
I have seen that there are a lot of families that come here to sort of find out in this very visceral way about the Latino culture.
It becomes like a teaching facility without you thinking of it as a teaching facility. Here you can come and experience the beauty and the color of a culture and use it as a teaching tool, not just for yourself to expand your mind and your understanding of people, but also as a teaching facility for your own children.
These galleries also give many the opportunity to learn where they came from, for others to feel like they never left their native country.
I think it just gives them a sense of home or a sense of pride if they can't be in their own areas.
If you have to leave your own culture, your own homeland, and go somewhere else, then that search becomes very, very critical to you to find, like peoples and places where you are accepted and feel comfortable. And I think artes could serve that well for people.
How do I express to someone how rich I feel for having a connection to my roots? The Mexicana part of who I am. But it's here for those as well that are not of Latino extraction.
Arte Americas is free and open to anyone, regardless of their roots. It is a family-friendly place full of art, history, and plenty of souvenirs to take with you.
We have our beautiful rebosos and we have our talavera, a little bit of everything, hopefully that appeals to our people here.
From beautiful works of art to devout faithfulness, coming up we'll take you inside the influence the Catholic faith has had on Hispanic heritage. Stay with us. Faith runs strong here in Alabama. It's a cornerstone of belief and action in daily life. Chad Brummett explains how it's equally important in the Hispanic community.
Among the most world-renowned legends from New Mexico is that of the Loretto Chapel in Santa Fe.
It gives me great pleasure to be able to talk about this to anyone who comes to visit us.
As the story goes, the chapel, which was built in 1878, was in dire need of a staircase above the choir loft, sitting some 22 feet above the ground floor. After 9 days of prayer by the sisters of the chapel, a mysterious carpenter showed up looking for work. Months later, a grand spiral staircase was built, and its carpenter had disappeared without thanks or pay. Legend has it, it was the patron saint of carpentry, Joseph himself, that answered the sisters' prayers.
I believe that it was definitely a work of divine providence. And somewhere or another, I'm sure St. Joseph was involved. And as far as the details, I'll find out on the other side.
75% of adults in New Mexico identify as Christian, and of those New Mexicans, 32% are Catholic.
The religion's iconography, parables, and traditions are deeply ingrained in our state's identity.
Take, for example, the thousands of faithful that line the streets of New Mexico during Holy Week. Some 30,000 people from all over the world participate in the pilgrimage to El Santuario de Chimayo, which itself is reported to have miraculous healing powers. Then there are the thousands that flock south of Albuquerque to Tomé Hill. In the early 19th century, Los Hermanos Penitentes and the residents of Tomé began a tradition of reenacting Christ's Passion by carrying a cross to the top of the hill and erecting it at the summit. Generations later, the practice is still popular.
I think when I had my own children, that is when
it really clicked for me, the importance of the continuity of tradition, and part of that was the faith in our family.
Shawn Wells is a fifth-generation Spanish colonial artist who is carrying on the artistic tradition of Catholicism by painting retablos, artwork done on wood featuring the saints.
People use the finished art as a commodity of love and respect. And I don't think that happens in other art forms, but it has a different value when you put that imagery on it.
She believes that the retablos were a fundamental part of Spanish settlement in New Mexico during the 16th century.
They were in this desolate desert landscape, and they were in mortal danger, fighting, disease and death every day. Faith became central to them.
In an age of skepticism, where science and reason seek to put a rational explanation on the extraordinary, New Mexico remains a state of faith.
No explanation is necessary if you have faith. And if you don't have faith, maybe no explanation will do.
Chad Brummett reporting.
Still to come, how one Latino woman has made her mark on the American political landscape. Stay with us. Hispanic Americans are stepping up right now in American politics, and one Latina woman is making her mark in Congress, making some history of her own.
Catherine, left hand in the Bible, raise your right.
Catherine Cortez Masto made headlines after winning her bid to replace Senator Harry Reid, making her the first Latina ever to serve in the U.S. Senate, a title she does not take lightly.
It is one thing to make history, but it's another for me to have a seat at the table and be able to use my voice for others who are traditionally underrepresented.
That you take this oath and obligation freely.
When she arrived in Washington, she quickly realized there was work to do, broadening the ethnic base.
I sat down with my staff and I said, oh my God, we got to do something about it. We got to shake this place up.
So, as a junior senator, she set out to bring diversity to not only her office, but to others on Capitol Hill. They brought together minority government workers to discover what barriers were holding them back and urged them to support each other to build their careers. Plus, she'd like to see government interns get paid so those coveted jobs can be open to students of all backgrounds.
People think of diversity, think it's a checkbox, right? Oh, I hired that. I hired that Latino. I hired that African American. I'm done. That's not what this is about, right? This is about changing that culture. This is about every single day.
The granddaughter of a Mexican immigrant, Cortez Masto heavily identifies with many of her constituents. The struggles her family faced are the same ones they face.
Every day I walk through the halls of Congress, or even when I was Attorney General here, I think of the courage it took for my grandparents to come to this country, and the hard work that it took for my parents to make sure that their two daughters would be the first in our family to graduate from college.
A native Nevadan, Cortez Masto is the daughter of Joanna and Manny Cortez. Her father, the longtime head of the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, and he also served as a Clark County Commissioner. Her dad, of Mexican descent, her mom, of Italian, which made for some large family gatherings.
So one Sunday, I'd be at my Mexican-American grandmother's house, having frijoles and tortillas that she made, and her tamales, and you name it. And then the next Sunday, I'd be at my Italian grandmother's, and she made a pot of sauce, right? And we'd have brujol and lasagna, and you name it, and meatballs, all the great food.
Those Sunday dinners and rich cultural background helped shape the woman she is today. But she also credits dedicated mentors for opening doors in her life. Now she hopes to kick those doors wide open for others to follow.
It is the opportunity to open that door even wider, to make sure that not only that I have gone through, but others are coming behind me and I'm pulling them through and helping them through.
Thank you so much for joining us for Hidden History, celebrating Hispanic heritage. We hope you found the last 30 minutes both enjoyable and informative. For more information as well as other stories on Hidden History, you can go to our website, cbs42.com, or also follow us on social media. For CBS 42, I'm Ariana Garza.